This video is created for educational and informational purposes only. The goal is to explain events and promote awareness and understanding. The content does not support, promote, or glorify violence, extremism, or hate of any kind. All information is based on publicly available government and academic sources cited in the description. Every time you visit a website, your device silently asks for directions. That moment, invisible, instant, and completely trusted, is exactly where attackers strike. DNS hijacking doesn't break into your device. It doesn't trigger an alarm. It quietly rewrites the directions. And by the time you arrive, you're somewhere else entirely, handing over your credentials to someone you can't see. The domain name system is the internet's address book. Every domain name, every website, maps to a numerical address that machines understand. DNS stands for Domain Name System. When you type a website address, your device sends a query to a DNS resolver, a server that looks up the matching IP address and returns directions. This process happens in milliseconds, billions of times per day. It is foundational to how the internet functions, and it was designed for speed and efficiency, not for security. In a DNS hijacking attack, those directions are silently altered. The attacker doesn't need to touch your device. They change the map itself. Here is how a DNS hijacking attack unfolds. First, the attacker compromises the credentials of an account with DNS management privileges through phishing, credential theft, or brute force. Then they log into the DNS control panel and modify the records. All traffic intended for the legitimate site now routes to infrastructure they control. The victim connects, enters their credentials, and the attacker captures everything. What makes this attack particularly effective is the padlock. The attacker obtains a legitimate security certificate, so the browser shows the site as trusted and secure. Because the attacker controls the DNS records, they can pass domain ownership checks and obtain a valid TLS certificate from a certificate authority. The victim's browser displays a padlock. The site looks real. CISA has documented this explicitly. Since the certificate is valid for the domain, end users receive no error warnings. There is no visible indication that anything is wrong. DNS hijacking takes multiple forms. From a single infected device, to a compromised home router, to a global attack on a domain's authoritative records. There are several forms of DNS hijacking. Local hijacking targets a single device through malware that changes its DNS settings. Router hijacking compromises the gateway, redirecting every device on the network. Registrar-level hijacking modifies authoritative DNS records at the source, affecting every user worldwide who queries that domain. And DNS cache poisoning injects fraudulent records into a resolver's memory without ever needing a password. In 2011, the FBI dismantled one of the largest DNS hijacking operations in history, a criminal network that had infected 4 million devices worldwide. The FBI's Operation Ghost Click exposed a criminal ring operating a malware called DNS Changer. It infected 4 million computers across more than 100 countries, including systems at US government agencies. The attackers generated at least $14 million in fraudulent advertising fees by silently redirecting victims away from legitimate websites. 7 individuals were indicted in the Southern District of New York. In 2019, CISA issued its first-ever emergency directive. Multiple U.S. federal agency domains had been compromised by a global DNS hijacking campaign. In January 2019, the Department of Homeland Security issued Emergency Directive ED 19-01, the first emergency directive CISA had ever issued. A state-linked global campaign had compromised DNS records belonging to multiple U.S. federal executive branch agencies. Attackers modified a records, MX records, and name server records, intercepting web traffic and email. Federal agencies were ordered to audit every DNS record and implement multi-factor authentication immediately. The scale of the threat is measured in billions. CISA's protective DNS resolver now blocks hundreds of millions of malicious connection attempts every single day. CISA's protective DNS resolver processes 1.6 billion DNS queries every day across more than 100 federal agencies, blocking approximately 700 million malicious connection attempts since its launch. The FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center reported $16.6 billion in total internet crime losses in 2024, a 33% increase from the previous year. Phishing and spoofing, the primary enablers of DNS hijacking, ranked as the #1 crime category. Defense starts with the basics: multi-factor authentication, record audits, encrypted DNS, and monitoring certificate transparency logs for unauthorized certificates issued to your domain. Protecting against DNS hijacking requires layered defenses. Enable multi-factor authentication on every DNS management account. Audit your DNS records regularly. Deploy DNSSEC to cryptographically sign your records. Use DNS over HTTPS or DNS over TLS to encrypt queries in transit. Monitor certificate transparency logs for any unauthorized certificate issued to your domain. Cyber threats evolve every day. Stay informed. Stay secure. This is VIDANALYTICA Cyber Intelligence. All original content, including script narrative, visual presentation, avatar identity, voice design, and video production, is the intellectual property of VIDANALYTICA. Government statistics and publications cited remain the property of their respective agencies.